What is the answer to the question of you? Great song lyrics. Gotta love Prince. Miss him. It's also a great way to start this video. Who are you? Why are you here? And lastly, why do you stay? Let's talk. Welcome to Becoming Beautiful You. I am Latricia Renee, and on my channel, we love to discuss fragrances and blend them with lifestyle. And today, I thought I'd talk about why. What is my why? Why am I here on YouTube? What is my reason for discussing fragrance and thus and so? In a nutshell, I would say heartbreak. Initially, I did not plan to start a channel about fragrance. I was going to come to YouTube because, as a writer, and I am a writer, I've mentioned that before, I write, I love to speak. I'm a poetry lover, and so I write poetry also. So I wanted to create a community that would appreciate the books that I'm planning to release, and I wanted to build a community on YouTube through my poetry. Well, somewhere along the way, before I even began to wonder about the makings of a poetic channel, I knew as I got closer to my start date that I didn't really want to get that personal. I didn't want to share my poetry. I wasn't ready to do that. I decided to shift my attention and make this a fragrance channel because I found that fragrance helped me with my self expression and my emotions. I experienced a tremendous amount of heartbreak in 2022. Two very vital, critical friendships. I thought they were vital and critical at the time. They had lasted multiple years. One, 35 years. I knew this person from the age of 17. And we had a disagreement, I will say. A very, 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 very heated discussion. The thing is, it was civil, but very, very heated. The conversation ended sorely, not in a nasty, disrespectful way, but it was sore. And I didn't decide until that person followed up that very heated conversation with a text message that I thought was very inappropriate, very uncalled for. And I decided at that point in my mind that we were no longer friends. I didn't tell that person that, but I decided myself, oh, after this comment, I'm not even going to respond, and we're no longer friends. Again, I didn't share that with the person. Speeding up to about almost 365 days later, to the date of our discussion, I decided to call. Now I knew this person wasn't going to answer the phone. Non-confrontational. Confrontational doesn't necessarily mean you want to fight. It doesn't even have to do with a fight most of the time. It just means you're facing a challenge or a problem head on. You've got to confront the issue so that you can fix it. Well, that is the hope. Nevertheless, I wasn't at all surprised that they didn't answer the phone. And so I left a voicemail. Hey, I'm not mad anymore, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember everything I said. I just know that I said, I'm not mad anymore. Can we talk? I miss you. I love you. Something of that nature. I extended an olive branch. And my reception was silent. I heard nothing. It was not reciprocated. And unfortunately, sometimes in friendships and relationships, what you give is not reciprocal. Love is not reciprocal. You give it doesn't mean you're going to get it back. And if you do, it may not be in the same way. So, although I didn't like it, I didn't agree, I had to respect it. And clearly, that person decided in their mind we weren't going to be friends anymore either. Just, it's just a sad, ridiculous story. I go back years in my mind and wonder what in the world I should have known. So, without going into that, I'm not going to go into that rabbit hole. That is that first heartbreak. A few months later, I experienced another loss of a friendship, not in death or passing, just the friendship. This person had a great friendship, about 15 years. And this one was the difficult one. This is what sent me into the rabbit hole of fragrance, little did I know, because I don't quite know what I did or said. I have an idea, but when you have someone that won't talk to you, you're left with your own understanding, and that's never a safe place to be. To be left with your own thoughts and understanding, it's usually wrong, usually a huge misconception. But when you don't have the other person there, human nature kind of kicks in. You try to fill in the gaps. I try to fill in the gaps. They must be thinking this, or they didn't do it because of that. And I far be it for me to try and figure out what that real answer is to date. But I remember trying to reach out to them, and I did reach out to them after a whole year and 6 months of complete silence, wondering what in the world happened. I broke the silence, and that was a trend in our friendship, I should have known. And long story short, every time we talked, they were just annoyed or irritated, and it was a bother to try and figure out a time to talk, and et cetera, et cetera. And it got to a point they just stopped responding to my texts and phone calls, and kind of a ghosting situation, I suppose. The strangest thing ever. That is something I would not do to anybody. I think that is absolutely cruel and unusual and just rude. If you don't want to speak to someone, just again, circumstances are very specific and individual. For my circumstance in this particular instance, be grown up and say something out of your mouth. Use your voice. As the person used to always tell me, you better find your voice. And well, I had nothing. I still have nothing to this day. And so that left a gorge in my soul I wasn't prepared for. And little did I know, while I was falling in love with fragrance, I was trying to fill that gorge with the expression of sensuality, perkiness, confidence, calmness, every note you can think of that you've ever sniffed or wondered about in fragrance. I kind of personified and tried to have my conversation with it or express my pain through it. And I had bottles, bottles, and bottles. I was about 150 bottles in before I realized, girl, what in the heck are you doing? We've never owned this many fragrances. What's going on? And then I realized, oh, you're trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a teaspoon. Ain't gonna happen. So by the time I woke up, the several hundreds that had been spent, several thousands had been spent. You do all these buy now, pay laters, which is absolutely foolish if you don't monitor it. But again, I was working through a place of pain, didn't have a way to soothe it. Yeah, of course, I did pray. I did meditate. Yes, I did. But this wasn't the kind of conversation I wanted to have with just anyone. There are some conversations that you just have with God, and this was one of them. And while He was working on me and through me, I found comfort in the fragrance. Such my point is, I couldn't have the conversation with the other person because they wouldn't have it with me. And 2 years after that friendship lost its breath, I'll say, 2 years after I stopped trying to breathe life into it, I'll say, and decided to move on because there was no coming back, no reasons for why, I let it go. I let go. But that's why I'm here. Will I write my poetry books? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be a trilogy, erotica type of poetry, beautiful work. And I will talk about that again when the time is appropriate. But it is such a joy to get up and decide, what is it I want to wear? I am an oversprayer because I am an educator. And so The students I teach, they think that passing gas is a game and they try to win every day. So I create a scent bubble and I say, oh no, I'm going to win this one. The kids are so funny. Nevertheless, I have a ball with it every day. And just knowing that I can enjoy fragrance even while having eczema, as I've shared in my series of fragrance and eczema, it's just been a beautiful experience. By the way, what the heck is a pretty girl fragrance? That is one thing that just, what is a pretty girl fragrance? As if there's an ugly girl fragrance. I get the misconception. I get the whole societal definition of, oh, that means this person's put together, blah, 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 whatever. Everyone's definition of pretty is different. And therefore, yeah, why I'm asking, what is a pretty girl fragrance? Talk to me in the comment. What do you think a pretty girl fragrance is? Because I think that is, when I first heard it, I thought that was the most asinine thing I'd ever heard. A pretty girl fragrance? I'm not judging. I'm just, so don't give me the business. Don't give me the business. I'm just saying I meant to ask that question. I just don't get it. What is a pretty girl fragrance? Nevertheless, I will not ever replace this with a real conversation. To me, I get the immediate gratification of having, a response through social media. I'm not big on texting except for with my phone, with personal friends and what have you, but I don't really dig scrolling. I don't scroll on Facebook. I don't scroll on Instagram. I don't even want to create a habit for that. I get that people enjoy it, and by all means, do what you do. It's just not something I want to create an appetite for. Nothing will ever take the place of a conversation and a phone call versus a picture and a post when you're talking to Latricia Renee. That's my conversation. I'd like to know about your conversation. Why are you here? More importantly, why do you stay? Take good care.